Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We just talked about the big games from this past weekend. Obviously, Michigan to Oklahoma kind of takes the cake there. But we got upsets to talk about, and it was one of those weekends where we talked about it going into the weekend. People were going to tell you this was a sleepy Saturday. They were going to tell you that Michigan Oklahoma was the only big game on TV. There were going to be upsets, and I promised you that on Friday, and you got that on Saturday. It was an incredible weekend. And South Florida won the weekend more than just about anyone else. We'll talk about the next team that might have won the weekend just a little bit more here in a second. But this was the shock of the bunch. This is the one that not a lot of people saw coming. I picked this game and said it absolutely can be close, but I picked Florida by about 17 points. So I expected Florida to win this game pretty comfortably at the end of the day. And frankly, I expected that really until South Florida made that massive play down the field to Keyshawn Singleton. That was when it really opened up. And then you had the final drive. What are we doing? The spitting thing. You saw what happened. You saw what Jalen Carter did. You saw how he got kicked out of the game. You saw that the Eagles' defense was immensely worse because of it. What is Brandon Bett doing in that moment? You have such an ability to just keep your cool, put yourself in a position to win that game, and just gang tackle. At the end of that game, they don't. He walks off the field the next play. Alvin Isaac goes about 40 yards down the sideline and puts them in a position to win that game. Then it was just about sitting on the ball. And frankly, they were able to sit on the ball because Billy Napier did not call a timeout when he very well should have towards the end of that game. I didn't understand a lot of this from the Florida perspective. And it's not my place to call out play callers, not my place to call out coaches in general. But just to say, Jaden Ball had 18 carries for 93 yards. He was the only good offense you had for the vast majority of this football game. How does he not get a 19th? What did he do on the first 18 carries that made you think a 19th wasn't worth it, or a 20th, or 25, or 30? You're in a position, you're in a game where you can't put your... You don't want to put anything more at danger than you have to. You don't want to put anything more on tape than you have to. And you have a quarterback in DJ Lagway that is immensely talented, can do some really incredible things with the football. He's also been hurt a lot. He also hasn't practiced quite as much as you would want your starting quarterback to practice, going all the way back to last year, and it showed up in this football game. He missed guys that he probably should have hit. He didn't look fully comfortable with his mechanics. He was in a position where you put a little bit too much on this guy's shoulders, and you really shouldn't have to say that for a South Florida game. You really should be able to put whatever you need to on DJ Lagway's shoulders and him continue to make plays. But the reality of the matter is, when you are running the ball that effectively, with a running back like Jaden Ball, and Jacoby Jackson was not necessarily as explosive or making massive plays, but was moving the ball downfield pretty effectively, why are we taking our foot off the gas? Why are we taking our foot off our opponent's necks in some respects? You have the ability to run the football on this team, and you just didn't. You kept pushing the ball downfield, which is essentially their passing offense in general, but you kept pushing the ball downfield, you kept putting the ball in dangerous positions, and you got nothing going offensively. There was no groove. There was no ability to really put together a great long-term drive because you didn't commit to the one thing that you did really well. It was bad, pretty much from start to finish. For Florida, on the offensive side of the ball, on the defensive side of the ball, you played better, but you missed the critical moments that you had to make down the stretch made some really terrible decisions outside of the football or on the football field, but outside of the game of play at the very least. Florida lost this game. South Florida did a great job. It's not to take anything out of South Florida. It's not to say that they aren't a CFP team moving forward. We'll talk about that here in a second. It's bad. And Florida played really poorly in this game. They did not do the things that they were supposed to do. I don't know why they didn't come in with a game plan saying, number 13 is going to give us a win. Let's just hand him the ball and let him do his thing, especially with the worries that we have at quarterback. I don't get it. I don't get much of any of it. I don't get the clock management at the end of the game. It made Deion Sanders look like he knows exactly what he's doing with clock management. It was bad. It was really bad. And it's one of those things that you tried your hardest to keep everything moving, to say that Billy Napier was going to figure it out, to say that this regime was going to figure it out. I think you're past that. I think you're in a position where you're staring down a schedule that is as nightmarish as anyone in the entire country. You still have Texas. You still have Georgia. You still have LSU. Next week you have LSU. The week after that you have Miami. It is not going to get easier. You're in a position where, frankly, I was looking at the schedule. If you get to a bowl game, you played really good football the rest of the way. You played really hard, you played really intense, and Billy Napier's probably still on the sideline. There's a world where he doesn't get to the Texas game in 4 weeks, I guess, with the bye week in between. I don't like saying that. It is not something I enjoy talking about whenever any coach gets fired, but that's the reality of the situation. You knew what it was coming into this season, and you misplayed this game. You really did. And you're playing a South Florida team that was not going to allow you to get away with much. This is a very well coached team. This is a team that knows exactly who they are, and they stick to it every single week. And now they go on the road to Miami next weekend. I don't think they have to win that game. If they find a way to win that game, they're running away with the group of five position. They are already kind of running away with the group of five position. 2 top 25 wins in back-to-back weeks, Boise State and now Florida. You're in a position where you can do some really incredible things. Still have Memphis on the road, still have Navy on the road. Work still to be done for this South Florida team, but you put yourself in a position where you can lose to Miami. I don't really care what the score is. Let's try to keep it at least relatively fair, but at the end of the day, I think you're in a position where you are far and away the group of five team. We'll talk about Tulane a little bit later. They can still absolutely catch you, but you're in a position if you're South Florida. You called an incredible game. You played your football. You didn't play perfect by any means, but team on the other side didn't play remotely perfect. So you find a way to win this one, a huge one for South Florida. The Grammatica kid hits another big kick that's just a thing for that family. But at the end of the day, a massive, massive win for South Florida. If I was to pick one team to make the CFP right this second, it would be South Florida. There's no question they are far and away the team in the group of five that has the inside track. They just got to keep the inside track, and that is a relatively tough thing to do, but we'll see what happens for Florida. Strap in, because I don't think it's going to get a lot easier. I don't know if it's going to get a lot better, and we'll figure that out over the next couple of weeks. If they win on the road at LSU, then maybe it's all back on track, but we'll tackle that probably on Wednesday. We'll get into that game, but the other big time one, Mississippi State wins a big one, 24-20 over Arizona State at home. You made it out of the wilderness. Mississippi State fans absolutely deserve this. It was a tough time last year, and 2-10 is never going to be easy. It was really tough how it unfolded the last couple of years for Mississippi State. It has not been the way that they wanted it to. It was not the way that they had planned it about 4 years ago. But you found your way out of the wilderness. You found your way to a coach that I think is incredible, that I think is going to do great things for this team. And you hit some big plays in this game. You hit about, I think, 3 touchdowns, over 40 yards in this one. Blake Shapen continues to be a guy that I don't think we talk about enough. And I think the injuries have a ton to do with that. Makes total sense. Not necessarily talking crap on anyone that's not talking about Blake Shapen enough. This kid knows what he's doing, and he's very, very comfortable in this offense. He knows that he has guys that can make plays downfield, and he stands in there like no other. He was in a position in that last play where there was a chance there was going to come a free rusher. He slipped just a little bit, which gave him a little bit more time, but Blake Shapen knew that guy was coming, and he found a way to get that ball out, played some really incredible football. On the other side of the ball, Sam Leavitt threw for 83 yards in this game. It was not pretty, and I think they were in a position where going into this season as a whole, especially going into this game, you were thinking if you put the ball in Sam Leavitt's hands, that's fine. We feel confident in that guy to go make plays, to do what he needs to do. The reality was the only reason you were in this game late was because you were able to run the ball. Relief Brown and Connie Udo both go for over 100 yards. They essentially death march Mississippi State at the end of the game to take the lead and possibly win this one. And then Mississippi State comes back down the field, makes a massive play to Brennan Thompson, and that was about it. But you're in a position, if you're Arizona State, where you just need more from your quarterback. And this is not to take anything away from Mississippi State. They played an incredible game. That defensive line is nasty. The outside guys played incredible on Jordan Tyson. But you're in a position where you got to get more from your guy. You have to find a way to get a little bit more, because you're in a position now where everyone's going to sell out to stop the run. Everyone's going to find a way to double Jordan Tyson and stop the run and just say, make someone else beat us. Make some other wide receiver, make Sam Leavitt beat us with his arm, with elite placement, and he hasn't been able to do it. It's not to say that he won't do it. I think he's a great player. I think he will continue to develop. But this was very obviously a game that they were just a little bit outmatched, especially on the offensive line. They really struggled in a lot of different respects. I think they're going to be okay. They're still firmly in the mix for the Big 12. Obviously, they will be fine moving forward. They got to find a little bit more offensively. In the pass game, they got to find a little bit more. They can't just rely on this running back crew to go for over 100 yards to keep them in games. They got to be a little bit better. They got to be a little bit stronger. They will be fine. Not super worried about Arizona State, but absolutely a game where some of the worries you had coming into the season were exposed a little bit more. Now, the run game was a little bit more of a worry than I guess it should have been. but then you have to be able to be complementary. So it's a little bit of a back and forth. We will figure out more about this Arizona State team moving forward. For Mississippi State, you had to win this one for a lot of different reasons, but mainly because if you didn't, you probably weren't making a bowl game. I think now you have a chance to make a bowl game. I don't think it's a layup by any means, but you go 2-0 before SEC play. You're in a position where it's a gauntlet. There's no two ways about that. It is going to be really, really tough. It is going to be a game or a schedule where you're going to have to bring your A game just about every single week. They have the ability to knock off some teams. I said it coming into this year. They have too much talent on that team to not win a couple of these big games. They've won one, and I think they're probably going to get another, whatever that looks like, whoever team that is, I don't know. But this is a team that needed this. It is really hard to go 2-10 and have your team ready to run through a wall again in August and early September. Jeff Lebby has that. He's done an incredible job with this team. He's put this team in a really good position, both from a just talent perspective and a schematic perspective. They've done an incredible job, and they deserve all the respect in the world. Mississippi State, you found your way out of the wilderness. It was a tough couple of years, but you've got a huge win. Now you just got to hope you string a couple of together, find a way to a bowl game, and then continue to build off this success. A couple of close calls from this past weekend. Clemson wins a game 27-16 over Troy that they were down 16-0 at half, or 16-3 at half, I believe. It was bad. It was really, really bad through half of this game. Frankly, I thought it was going to be bad through the entirety of this game. I thought Troy was going to win this game at halftime, and then in a matter of 4 plays, Clemson scores twice, does not give the lead back, and that was about it. They went up 17-16, and that was all she wrote. It was not great for a lot of this game for Clemson. They had, outside of Adam Randall, who went for over 100 yards, played a great game, they had 10 carries for 8 yards. They have to find a way to get a little bit more. It can't all be Adam Randall because he's a new running back. He is new to the position. He just moved over from wide receiver. You cannot put all of that on his shoulders. Outside of that, you got to get more from Cade Klubnik. And I don't know what the problem with this offense is. I don't know if they're going to totally fix it up, totally play clean throughout the rest of the way, but I know they have to on Saturday. They play a Georgia Tech team that will take advantage of just about every opening that you give them. You gave Troy quite a bit of openings in this game. Haynes King's going to be able to score on a lot of those openings, not just miss a chance or not just hit a field goal instead of get a touchdown. It is going to be really, really tough. I can promise you that. It is going to be really tough to find a way out of Atlanta with a win if you're going to play that level of football, and you can't go 1-2. You can't be behind the 8 ball in the ACC because you've seen what Florida State is. You've seen what Miami is. You got to be careful. And I think Clemson put in the performance that at the very least is behind you, and at the very least you went 1-0 this week, so you can take some pride in that. It was not pretty, and this offense has a lot to figure out. The defense, I think, is going to be okay. They missed a couple of moments in this game, no doubt about that, but I think the defense is going to be okay. The offense has got to do more. There's no doubt about that. You can't just hope that your defense gets 2 picks early so you can get some momentum and make some big plays. You have to find a way to be more consistent. You have to find a way to get more from the run game than just Adam Randall. They will figure it out. I have no doubts about that. If they don't figure it out by Saturday, they could be looking at 1-2 in the face. Syracuse escapes in overtime over UConn. I told you UConn was going to impress this upcoming weekend. I think they did that. Now, they didn't pull off the special thing here. I thought they were going to, frankly. It was very, very close late in this one. Syracuse able to find 2 touchdowns late in this one with about 30 seconds left, forced this thing to overtime. An incredible drive from UConn to actually force overtime, but incredible job from this UConn team. I think overall, you're in a hole when you talk about the group of 5 getting into the playoff. That was going to be the case. It was probably going to be pretty hard for UConn to pull it off unless they went undefeated, if I'm being totally honest. That being said, they do have a game against Boston College coming up. They do have Duke at home later in the year. They have the ability to get a couple of marquee wins. They're probably going to need some help from some of those other group of 5 teams that we've talked about earlier in the show, but they have the ability to make something special happen regardless of if you lose the Boston College game, lose the Duke game. If they go 9-3, UConn put together an incredible season, and they move forward with Jim Mora, hopefully with Jim Mora, and have a lot of confidence as they move forward. So, really good job from UConn. The story of this game, weirdly enough, was after the game. It was the sprints that Fran Brown had his team run in the Carrier Dome. I didn't like it. I'll be totally honest. I think I'm joining kind of everyone in this respect. I didn't like it at all, if I'm being totally honest. If the players didn't execute, I would argue the coaches didn't execute all that well either, and they should probably be on the line running sprints with them. To each their own. I like Fran Brown. He's done an incredible job with that program, so I'm not going to turn my nose up too much at it. Just didn't love it. Not my ideal way to go about business, not the way that I probably would have gone about it, but then again, I'm not a head coach in college football, so I'll let Fran Brown do his thing. Just didn't love that. Syracuse finds a way to win. They won they very badly needed. This Syracuse team looks very questionable at the very least. We'll see what happens with them going forward, but I don't think it's going to be the team from last year. Army gets a win over Kansas. A couple other upsets here to finish this thing out. I don't know what Kansas State is. I have no earthly idea. I don't know what happens when you lose a game over in Ireland, but it might just torpedo your season. Whoever TCU or North Carolina, whoever loses that game early next year, you might just want to put in one for their win total under. But at the end of the day, Kansas State loses another game. They fall to 1-2 on their schedule after barely eking out a win over North Dakota in week 1 after week 0's performance. It was bad. It was really, really bad for Kansas State. I don't know if it's going to get all that better. The Big 12 is not going to be very kind to this team if they continue to make mistakes offensively like they have. It's not going to be pretty. And this was a backup quarterback for Army with Cade Helms. Made a number of big-time plays, so incredible job from them. Had 2 13-plus play drives that they found a way to cash in for touchdowns. Went for 70 carries for 237 yards the week after they lost to FCS Tarleton State. It was bad. In Kansas State, you're in a very bad position moving forward. I don't know what to make of this season. I thought this was going to be a ton better team. So I don't know what to do with that. What I can say is if I was a head coach right now, I would not be excited for an Ireland game. For whatever reason, it does not work out very well for whichever team loses that. It was Florida State last year. Now it's Kansas State. Hopefully they do a little bit better than 2-10, but you can make the argument they should be 0-3 right now. They are 1-2, but it's a rough team. I'll just leave it at that. For Army, a massive win after a very disappointing loss last week, and you move forward with at least a little bit of confidence in a very tough conference, however. Ohio gets a 7-point win over West Virginia. Don't say I didn't tell you. Could have bet on it. Said that Ohio was going to win. Parker Navarro is a very interesting player. He threw 3 picks in this game, did not get punished for any of them because West Virginia did not get a first down in any of the 3 picks that he threw. This is a very fun quarterback. This is a guy that can make all types of plays. He is going to hurt you with his legs in every single facet. He is a very, very talented player, and he puts this team in a really good position to win football games. The defense probably played a little bit better in this game. They totally shut down the run game for West Virginia. If you do that to a Rich Rod offense, you're going to win the football game. That's the reality of that offense, and frankly, I think a lot of people are going to be able to shut down the West Virginia run game. I think Rich Rod is going to be able to figure it out, be able to get on his feet in year 2 and moving forward. I don't think this one's going to be all that pretty. They get Pitt next, then at Kansas, Utah in the next 3. I don't think it's going to get better. I'll leave it at that for the time being. Ohio is probably just the start of a little bit of a skid for West Virginia. Maybe they can turn it around, but I don't think it's going to be pretty. As for Ohio, shock the world in Columbus this weekend. If you find a way to beat Ohio State, a lot of things happen very quickly. You probably won't, with all due respect, but we'll see what happens up there in Columbus. UNLV gets a win over UCLA 30-23. Another one that I picked. Just saying, if you follow my upset picks, then you're probably in pretty good shape this past weekend. But Tennessee fans had to enjoy this one. We'll talk about them a little bit later in the week, or later in the show, but this one was frustrating. From the UCLA offense, from Nico overall. Nico once again was the leading rusher for UCLA. I think that's going to be a theme throughout this year, but it was bad. It was really bad. UNLV jumped out to, I believe, a 30-3 lead, if I'm not mistaken, and then UCLA was able to come back into it, was able to make a couple of plays, and then a pick from Nico finishes off the game. It was bad. And UNLV now puts themselves in a position where they get a win at Boise State later in the season. They have the ability to do something pretty special. Now, I have my worries about this UNLV team. I think the defense continues to have to improve, but they are improving in a lot of different ways. We'll see what the rest of the season holds for this Runnin' Rebels team, but it could be a very interesting squad to watch late in the season. There were a lot of upsets. There were a lot of close calls. There were a lot of teams that played a lot better football than they probably expected, and definitely the team on the other side expected. For Florida, I don't know where you go forward from here, if I'm being totally honest. I don't know what happens with Billy Napier. I don't know how quickly anything happens. Find a way to win at LSU, I guess is the answer, and that is a far from easy answer, but I think that's the way you're going to have to go about this. We will obviously talk about that game on Wednesday. We'll get into whatever happens over the next 48 hours down there in Gainesville. I don't think too much, but we'll see what happens. At the end of the day, let's take our let's take our second break here. When we come back, we just got to go through a number of other games. Illinois rolls Duke. Baylor is able to win a double overtime thriller against SMU. We had an NC State Virginia out of conference game and a couple other things right after this, so stick with